Hello! Hello! Hello, everybody! Hello, how are you? My name is Chu, I'm a clown, and I reign from Zaju Theater! Zaju Theater. Chu means ugly in Zaju Theater. I can tell you that once or twice. Oh no, but first, I need to go find my friends, because my friends, they can help me out with this. Very much so. So, here's what I will do. I will get on my horse real quick, and I will go find them. This right here is my horse, okay? I'm about to go find my horse, and then I'm going to go find my friends, okay? Follow me on an adventure. Let's go. I just need to find my horse, and then we will be all set. Let's go, adventure time. Adventure time, let's go. I am a clown, I am a clown. Where are my friends? I think I might just frown, 'cause they aren't here, they can't be seen. Where are my friends? I need my friends now. What you just saw there was the Chu. This right here is the Chu. I am missing the face mask of the Chu, which has a white chalk in the middle. Chu in Chinese Mandarin translates to ugly. Now, the point of the Chu is to offer entertainment to the audience in between the main acts. Zaju has 4 acts, which I will be getting into later on in the structure. Yet, what the Chu does is the Chu has multiple roles. The Huang, which is the role of the civilian, such as a merchant or a jailer, and then the Huan Tzu, which is the role of a military person, which often involves more acrobatics. As you can see, I was not doing as much acrobatics. Instead, I was doing more of a dance and song, which was then showing that I was the Huan because I was doing a civilian role. Resources I used for this were articles I found off the internet, mainly from Chinese tourist sites. Chinese tourist sites offered a wide range of articles because they were meant to show audiences who weren't exposed to Zaju Theater, as myself, what a Cho was. A Cho is, like I said earlier, a clown. I also used references from the book Encyclopedia of Asian Theater, Volume 2 by Samuel Leiter, and I also used a wide variety of internet sources along with the traditional Chinese Zaju melody, also known as Beijing opera, which I will be getting into later about why they're so common later on in the presentation. So why I chose this method was fairly simple. Prior to this, I had never really acted as a clown. I often kept my acting minimal and only using my hands. I'm not very used to using my whole body when it comes to theater. In this case, it really exposed me to using my whole body and expressing my voice. I normally do not act like this in public or in theater. In fact, I'm normally not I've never really been in a play either. So this really exposed me to something new. As well as what I had to do in order to prove this method was I had to stretch a lot. As you can see the dance where I was riding the horse, I needed to stretch my feet a lot. Even though I do sports, it's often very hard to do that because you're so low to the ground and you need to stretch your foot out in order to show that you are doing the dance. The Cho has specific dances as well as other character types in Zaju Theater, which I'll be getting into in a bit. But first, let's discuss the history of Zaju Theater, also known as Yuan drama. So what are the origins of Zaju Theater, also known as Yuan drama? Why did it develop? The Song Dynasty, which was started in 960 to 1279, was a dynasty which offered great pride to China. It is often said that traders from around the world saw the Chinese ships for vast, beautiful giants. The reason why the Song Dynasty was so well is because, once again, they implanted the idea of Confucianism. Confucianism is the idea that honor is bestowed upon you if you have a good job. Neither is it a source of government or a religion. It's Confucianism. It's a way of lifestyle, which then China had adopted in the Song Dynasty once again, which really boosted up the culture. The Song Dynasty was a time of great prosperity. As you can see here in this image, there's China's prosperity, marketplaces, people, families. And then when did it develop? Like I said earlier, it developed in the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279. But yet, where did it develop? This is where it gets a bit complicated due to Chinese complex history. The Song Dynasty was actually broken up into 2 parts. There was the Northern Song Dynasty, which had started Zaju Theater, but then the Southern Song Dynasty adopted it then. The reason why is because the Northern Dynasty had fallen to neighboring tribes in the north, while the Southern Dynasty thrived due to its increased navy and the first efficient navy. Are there people who were instrumental? This is where Zaju gets very complicated. Like I said, the complex history. Often switching of dynasties involved war and battles, and not many playwrights or playtexts survived these battles. Governments were not as restrictive compared to the rest of the world at the time, so playwrights had a little bit more freedom, yet there was still obviously that source of restriction. Yet there were specific playwrights. One playwright which was very well known was the author of The Injustice to Du Yi, was Huan Hangying. He was a very well-known Zaju artist. His plays have been translated to English, as well as Tang Min Huang, whose also plays have been translated to English, and these have evolved throughout the years, as well as Zaju Theater. So, what was going on during the Song and Yuan dynasty, both political, social, and worldwide? Politically, like I mentioned earlier, the Song dynasty was thriving. A couple examples of this was the Song dynasty was the first country in the world to invent gunpowder, the first country in the world to invent the banknotes made out of paper, the first country in the world to have an actual strong naval military that could defend its shores. The Southern dynasties located along the Chinese coast, Beijing, was one of their major trading ports. And so, like I said earlier, it was often found that traders found the Chinese ships to be vast, like I mentioned earlier. Socially, China was thriving. Like I said earlier, Confucianism had been installed again, and worldwide, this is where China was really highlighted. Worldwide was the Dark Ages. Nothing could be done unless you had confirmation from the church. Lions in Europe had been extinct during the 10th century, right when the Song dynasty was starting. The Kingdom of England had started. The monarchy reigned upon Europe. The church was in charge of everything. There was mass death and mass poverty. Castles, kings, knights, that was all happening in Europe, as China was the first to develop an actual society. But yet all good things must end, because of course the Mongols came along. The Mongolians is the reason why the Zaju Theater has the name Yuan. The Yuan dynasty plays an important part in Zaju history, because that is really when it thrived, when it was really looked at as a really well art form. For example, in the Song dynasty, the Zaju plays are often performed in temples, not in public places, compared to the Yuan dynasty, where they're performed in public places. Anyone can see them. So this picture on the right is Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan is the emperor of this Yuan dynasty. The Yuan dynasty was taken over by Genghis Khan, the killer who pillaged many nations and murdered and raped. But yet Genghis Khan was the one who implemented Confucianism once again, because he believed that the Song dynasty and Chinese tradition had to be maintained in order to have a strong community upon China and good relations. Zaju Theater structure. Now, what is Zaju? What are Zaju plays and the performance structure? Because what makes Zaju so special is because it is the oldest Chinese form of theater. It is an opera. It consists of song and dance. It consists of 4 acts. These acts had wedges in between. Zaju in Chinese Mandarin literally stands for miscellaneous acts. Each act had a specific character type and a specific melody for that. For example, when I did the Cho, that was a melody of a high-pitched, fun song, because the clown's job is to keep the audience entertained in between acts. The Cho, although is not a major character, it is considered to be a secondary character type. Each character type had a role in the play and often referred to a single melody. For example, the first structure of the play, the first act would be sad, then the second act would be happy, then the third act would be angry, then the fourth act would be scary. So these different melodies using strings and Chinese instruments were implemented, as well as acrobatics and body movements. Like I mentioned earlier, there were 2 types of Chu. The one who was a military Chu was the one who offered more acrobatics and flips. Those were often used for more high-pitched, high-intense scenes. They were often depicted as times of great violence. Speaking of plays, now we go on to Zaju plays. Zaju plays, like I mentioned earlier, did not have much restriction on them. There was still restriction on certain Zaju plays, but there wasn't as heavily compared to Europe during this time. For example, Zaju plays often, a lot of them convicted of stories of corrupt government officials and also convicted of stories of rescues and mystery and crime. All these Zaju plays, as well as romance, which is something very common in Asian theater. Honor as well was a very important part of Zaju theater due to Confucianism being very thriving during the time. Performance structure, like I mentioned earlier, the 4 acts and the wedges in between is really what made Zaju its own type of theater. Now going on to characters, males play female roles, females play male roles, males play male roles, and females play female roles. Basically what I'm saying is it did not matter what gender you played, as long as you had the skill to play that character, you were set. The face mask, very heavily influenced part of Zaju theater due to Chinese beliefs in coloring. For example, the idea of color can be seen as something the idea of white can be seen as something negative in Chinese, or the color red can be seen as something positive. Very Western from my Western values and majority of other people's. So one thing was to get used to, with me as a learner, I had to really understand the Zaju meaning of what these colors meant. For example, like I mentioned earlier, the chalk on the chu was used to throw away evil spirits, believing that happiness would reign upon those evil spirits and they would be destroyed. So the impact on the performer, also the impact to me, I just want to quickly relate Zaju theater to Bunraku, because what I found so interesting is that China and Japan are often caught in wars during this time over lands such as Korea. And China and Japan have so much hate for each other during this time, yet somehow they both had something in common. They're both well-known sources of theater, both thrived out of times of great peace, showing that times of great peace only bring good things to happen. Zaju theater was planted after a time of Song Dynasty where everyone was happy and everyone had a good life. Gunpowder, navies, etc., as well as Japan having a time of great prosperity as well. Also another comparison is that both China and Japan during this time had a great population boom, which then influenced audiences attending Zaju theater and often had a higher demand, as well as Bunraku. Impact by me, my research skills were tested on this one due to Zaju theater being evolved throughout the years. Like I said earlier, often switching of dynasties had great wars and battles and play texts were lost. Zaju theater, since it's the oldest form of theater, had been exposed to much change. It's like the saying, when something is broken or old, it is often replaced by something better. Zaju theater has evolved and also influenced other sources of theater such as Peking opera, also known as Beijing theater, also known as Nianxi theater, also known as Yuan drama, Zaju theater. This is all Zaju theater rooted from one seed. Also, I had to, like I said earlier, I had to go to learn how to stretch more because my legs cannot really reach the ground when I was doing the dance. I had to really work on my voice. I had to work on my dance. I even had to work on getting past my ego and feeling comfortable to dance like a clown in front of my peers and for the audience. To conclude, I can say that this research presentation has improved not just my research skills of theater, but also my understanding of Asia as a whole. I did not previously know about these dynasties and the battles which took place between them until I started the research presentation. I did not understand Chinese culture such as Confucianism before this either. Thus, I would like to say this was Zaju theater, and yes. Woo! We're excited.